Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Drena Finds Out, my very first episode of the year, and we're talking about trying to be where the money resides. We have local entrepreneur, maybe not homegrown, but moved here. Mr. Micheal Davis. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm good. So I watched a video of yours on Facebook called Mondays with Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were talking about how to make yourself more bankable, more, I guess, attractive to banks whenever you're trying to get loans or lenders. So I want to try to help people that are trying to become more bankable or to get those loans, whether it be for a car or a home or whatever it is. So can you give me some insights and tips on how they can do that?
Okay, well, first of all, I'll say this. When you start talking about becoming bankable, obviously that's a term that the banks will use to basically say, how willing am I to loan you money, so to speak, that type of deal. So the first place I would start is what a person is trying to get a loan for, because there's different stipulations. So, car loans, pretty simple. I always tell people a lot of times a person might be in a situation where, even if you had to get a car loan and they were going to give you a high interest rate, just make your payments every time on time for the first 6 months and then go and refinance. And one of the best places to refinance for a car loan is Keysler. Federal Credit Union, they usually have the best rates. I have not seen anybody be able to beat them. So that's the place I usually send them for something like that. When it comes to trying to become bankable for a home loan, it's a little bit different. They want to see the last 2 years of your tax returns. They want to also see bank statements, different things like that. But it's a term that I continue to use called DTI, which means debt to income ratio. It's a term that I've been trying to hammer home to our community because, like I said in the video, I just feel like that sometimes they'll have us a step late. When I was growing up, the most important thing was cash. That's everybody always talked about. Cash rules everything, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it was like, that sounded good. But an example was, you'd have a person in the hood growing up and he might have $50,000 cash, which seems pretty good. But you take another person with an 800 credit score that's in a bankable position and they can go get $150,000 cash. So really, if you really look at it, which one puts you in a better position? So same thing like right now, when we were on cash, they were on credit. Now that we're on credit, they're on DTI. DTI is more important than credit from the standpoint of your debt to income ratio. Some people wonder how they can have a 750 credit score and still get denied for certain loans. And the reason why is because they do an algorithm, if you will, to determine how much capacity you have or how much money I can loan you. And not to make it real boring, but good rule of thumb is if I made $2,000 a month, they're going to multiply that times 40%, which is going to leave me right at about $800 left over. And then they'll start subtracting your expenses from that number. And that's what's going to determine how much money they're willing to loan you. So you take a person who's making $3,000 a month and they'll get ready to go purchase a home. And it'll be like, hey, this home ain't going to cost me nothing but $1,200 a month. I'm good. I got $3,000. Ain't no way they should be able to deny me. But if you multiply that 3,000 times 40%, you really start at 1,200 according to them, as opposed to you starting at 3,000. And that's the thing that's messing people up. So if your home is going to cost you $1,200, and now they're starting you off with $1,200, it's hard then to have a $400 car note and still be able to be approved for that type of loan. So when you start talking about things like debt to income ratio or becoming bankable, then there's different things that matter based on what you're trying to do.
So where does the 40% come from? Just like the cost of living?
Well, what they do is, and I think it started when, in 2008 when, the housing market crashed and everything crashed, then what the banks were doing at that time is they would give people loans that they really couldn't afford. They will give them certain type of loans that will have big balloon payments towards the end. They weren't fixed income, they were adjustable rate income, ARMs. So it's like they'll start off where you might have a payment that's only $800 a month this year. 2 years later, it might be $1,200 a month. 2 years after that, it might be $1,700 a month, which caused a lot of people to default on their mortgage. So what the government started doing is the certain loans that they give you, which is FHA, USDA, VA, all these different type of loans, they'll put certain stipulations. When the bank loans you money, they're not just saying, hey, let me do you a favor and give you money. Most of those loans are backed by the government. but the government will say, I'll back these loans so that if they default on a loan, you'll still get your money back, but they have to fit into a certain criteria. So the government says they have to be able to afford, their house payment has to be within 40% of their income. And that's what part people are missing. So if they say, I make $3,000 a month, and they say, oh, I'm doing pretty good. But if you multiply times 40% of your income and say, okay, now my house payment is $1,200. Well, 40% of your income is $1,200, so you're right there as a wash. So if you had a car note that was $400 now, you subtract that from your $1,200, you have $800 left. So they cannot then give you a loan for a house where you would be having to pay $1,200 a month for it. It doesn't fit within their FHA guidelines. That's where that came in at.
So for people that are at that level, that are starting off, either they make $3,000 and they start off at $1,200, what are the ways that they can be to try to get into that? What level where they need to get to? How can they get there?
Okay, so now the first thing I wanted to do is start explaining to people, that's a good question, what you needed to do to be bankable. First thing is you want to understand DTI. You can look it up on, on the internet, debt to income ratio, because I believe if more people understood this algorithm that they use, then more people will know what's going on. The same way as credit. Right now, when people say, hey, I'm trying to put myself in position to buy a house, what they're really saying is trying to get my credit together. Nobody says I'm trying to get my DTI together, because they don't even understand that that's a major part that they're going to try to use. So I think that the first step is just becoming more informative about what the banks are looking for. First of all, they're going to try to look at your last 2 years bank statements, in which case I just did another video saying how to purchase a home when you're an independent contractor or when you own your own business, because what a lot of people don't understand is they're not going to go off the money that you made, they're going to go off the money that you claimed. So I have people who, I had a guy, he owned his own trucking company, made $100,000. But then after write-offs, he wrote it all the way down to $30,000. So now he coming into the bank like, I make $100,000 a year. Give me whatever house I want. They're like, no, sir, you make $30,000. Yeah. So there's certain situations where you just want to have an understanding of what the bank is looking for. I always tell people, if you don't make at least, I would say if you don't at least make over $3,000 a month, purchasing a car first is almost like a no-no. You need to try to buy a car either cash or purchase a car in a way where you're not going to have it for 3 and 4 and 5 years. So like my cars, just to throw on the little car you just seen me in a second ago. A lot of people don't understand, that car cost me, $22,000 3 years ago. It's just 2012, you know what I mean? I paid it off early. I just put extra money on it and different things like that so I could pay it off. Because if I was going to try to get a bank loan and they're looking at this car payment, they say, okay, this is $400 a month. Now, what I know is if I get it down to where there's only 8 months left or fewer, they don't count that against me anymore. So now a good rule of thumb is, okay, if I'm trying to buy myself a house or something like that, I don't want to get locked into things that are going to hold me for 3 and 4 years. You know what I mean? I might need to get something just a little bit cheaper. Now, it's very easy to get a car. Most times they don't care when it comes to buying a car. As long as you show them you got some income, they'll let you have the vehicle that you want. So what I tell people is just get the house first. Most times the house is the most expensive thing that a person is going to buy, where they even need the bank to loan them money for outside of doing business stuff. So just purchase your home first and then go backwards and then say, okay, let me go purchase a vehicle after that. Another thing is you don't want to have things negative on your account. They're going to look at that. So most of the time when it comes to purchasing a house, it's not really hard. It's just more about just being disciplined. You know what I mean? Just, keeping your credit cards up under 30%. That's something that's going to give you maximum return on your credit score. So they're going to give you the highest points that you can get. They want you to be somewhere around a 620 as far as a credit score, but even a 580 will do for you. So it's like I said, it's not really just hard when it comes to a home loan or whatever. Now, if we start talking about how to become bankable as far as a business, then we're going a different route. There's different things you would need to do in order to make your business bankable than what you would need to do just to make yourself bankable. However, if you're not bankable personally, then more than likely your business is not going to be bankable either.
Before you have people who are just starting out, they don't have any credit, coming out of college, what do you suggest those people start to do?
Okay, good question, great question. Well, first and foremost, And this is a side note, you know, you can purchase, this might not even go with it, but I have to say this. You can purchase a home on Section 8. They have programs. I actually sold a lady a home on Section 8 where, you know how you can make payments every single month as far as if you're renting somebody else's place. Yeah, they'll actually give you that same money every month to pay for your own home. They'll just put you in a program where, you know, they'll make sure you have the down payment money up front. You know, they'll look and make sure that your finances are okay. But think about it, if they're going to give you, let's just say $800 a month towards a place, why pay for somebody else's house when you could put that towards your own? But if you were just coming out of college, you know, student loans are a whole nother subject. I'm not going to get real deep into that, but I will say this. Student loans don't necessarily keep you from buying a home. You can actually do certain things, like I know most people are going to put their student loans in deferment. What I've done is I have put people in certain programs where we just consolidated their student loans and took that small payment, and that's what they use to subtract from their debt to income ratio, as opposed to using that big student payment. But there's just certain banks that can do it. One bank in particular is Hope. So, you know, most banks have to take 1% of whatever your student loans are. So let's just say your student loans were $40,000. Okay, 1% of $40,000 is $400. So remember I told you about that $1,200 we started with? They're going to subtract that $400 from there. But if you put yourself in position and you say, I'll consolidate these instead and get me a monthly payment that's about $30 or $40 a month based on my income, then certain banks like Hope can use that $30 or $40 to subtract from that $1,200, which leaves you a lot more room as opposed to them trying to take that 1%. I would tell them to go get themselves a bank account. First and foremost, you start off getting yourself a bank account and start to develop a relationship with a local bank. Secondly, I would say go get you a credit card. If a person say, hey, they won't let me get a credit card, that's an unsecured credit card. Go get you a secured credit card, which all that means is that you give them the money up front. I did it. You know, one thing people don't know about me, I actually filed bankruptcy, about 7-8 years ago, and I built me and my wife credit back up from like 500 and something to 700 and something in less than a year, 2 years, because what you can do is you can actually go get secure loans. So I went to the bank and gave them $300 and said, here, give me a secure credit card. I gave them $1,000 and said, give me a secure loan. Because the two ways they mainly calculate your credit is from installment and revolving. Revolving is the credit card, and installment is almost like a car payment or something. So you can give them the money up front and tell them, I'll borrow against my own money. So now they're not at risk of losing their money, and that allows you to build your credit up that way. So if I'm just coming out of college, I get a bank account, I go give me a secure loan, I go give me a secure credit card when I'm able to. You know, $300 is the lowest you can do, I believe, with a credit card, and I think $500 is the lowest you can do with a secure loan. So I start off that way, and I just build my credit up little by little. But remember, credit is not the most important thing. It's really debt to income ratio. So even though they're building up their credit, again, you can have a 750 credit score, and if your debt to income ratio is not right, then you can still be in trouble. So based on debt to income ratio, keep money coming in, more money coming in than you have going out. I know it sounds real simple, and I know it's not that simple, but sometimes you really have to take a year or 2 years to kind of put yourself in position, just to be honest.
Right. So for people, like if they're looking for, I've only purchased my cars like straight out. I've never been to a car dealership. Yeah. So I know that they have like different like lenders whenever they come to, you know, trying to find the best way for people to go. So whenever people are looking for banks and credit unions, should they shop around, looking at those rates and what can make them save them the most money, or even when it comes to savings, making the most money on those accounts? Should they?
Well, yeah, it kind of, again, the bank is so weird. It just depends on what you're trying to do. If it's a car loan, the best thing to do would be to go to the bank first and go to your local bank and say, hey, I'm thinking about purchasing a car. How much car can I afford? They might look at your situation and say, okay, you can get a car for $10,000 or less, $12,000 less, $15,000 or less, and it's best to take that to the car lot and then say, I'm already pre-approved and all that. Right. I'm coming to get a car based on this. When it comes to a house, the best thing to do is to go to a mortgage lender as opposed to just a bank. You know, you go to a bank, they're kind of have to be into a particular box where they can only do what the bank allows them to do. Mortgage lenders sometimes shop it around to 50, 100 different banks, and they have more, flexibility. But again, it really just depends on the situation. That's what I do for my clients. I'll ask them first. I almost pre-approve people before they even have to go to a bank. I don't want people going to a bank and then saying, oh man, they didn't pre-approve me, because that takes something away from you getting denied and stuff like that. So I'll find out about a person's situation, and once they tell me, I'll say, okay, based on your situation, it's best to go here. Or like I know Keesler is the best as far as credit, as far as cars. Navy Federal Credit Union is almost the best bank to start off with as far as secure loans and secure credit cards. Home loans, the best place to go to would be a mortgage lender. Keesler is terrible at home loans, but they're great at car loans. So, it just kind of depends on different things. One thing I'll say is they're not trying to make it easy for you to become bankable. I mean, just being real, they're not trying to put you in a situation, because I say this all the time. For the most part, it's not rocket science to be able to be an entrepreneur or to make money in business. I just saw them put a Zaxby's in a promenade. Who don't know that that'll make money? Who can't make money by putting a restaurant right there? You know what I mean? But who has the millions of dollars to start it off? So I believe they control things by controlling loans. If I can control who's going to get this loan, and for the most part, as long as you're disciplined with your money, if I gave you $100,000 or $1 million and you had any sense about any type of business or how to flip houses or how to buy real estate and rent out property, you could make money too. So based on that, they're not going to make it easy for you to become bankable, if you will. You're going to have to do a little work to put yourself in a situation. But the easiest thing, try to get a job that's going to pay you more money, which that's hard to do, but you want to try to get a job that'll pay you more, and you want to try to keep your expenses down. All the keeping up with the Joneses, if you will, that could be later. You know what I mean? Just kind of waiting a little bit more and putting yourself in position is really the best way to go about it.
So with your shows, Mondays with Mike, like what is your main goal?
Well, my main goal for Mondays with Mike really is to just start passing information to the community. I just feel like God has blessed me with a lot of wisdom. I've been a lot of places. I'm 38 now. I've been married to my wife right now for 10 years. I was married one time before. I've been to a lot of different countries. I was in the military, a lot of different states. So I'm pretty well-rounded, and I just want to be able to kind of give back, because what I see is there's a lot of information that we just don't know. And if we were able to know the information, I believe that it'll just help people overall to just get in a better spot. I always get mad when it's something that I find out later and be like, darn, if I knew that back then I would have had myself in a different situation. So I'm just trying as best I can to just give back whatever information that I come upon. And
where can people find you?
Mondays with Mike, and like I said, I ain't as good with the social media, but Mondays with Mike, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. You can find Drena. You'll find me that way. I'm gonna do a better job of trying to get it out there, but for the most part, I'm just starting. But I'm trying to just, get with as many people as possible and just, flood our community with it. The reason why I started off with houses is because I believe that's the first part that you can do to start becoming financially free. If you think about it, a house doesn't necessarily just, you're not benefiting as much from you buying a house as much as the next generation. But imagine if your mom or my mom would have had a $200,000 house that they paid for, and then now we get older and now they have almost $250,000 investment that they own, where they can say, oh, Drena, you want to start a new business? I can take out some money from this home, or I can sell this home. We have a couple $100,000, or I can take advantage of different businesses that are going on that I could be a part of. So I believe that's the first step for our next generation is home ownership and life insurance are my two major things. And saying if we have those in our community, then it'll really, really help the next generation.
I agree. Well, thank you for taking time out to talk to me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can reach a few people.
Yes, ma'am.
a few dozen, and they'll spread the news around as well.
For sure, and we appreciate what you're doing. Everybody go find Drena, like, share everything, because she's doing a great job for the community.
Thank you so much.